Hi folks, this is Karim Raouf from IT Visualizer channel. We will continue our lab, the Matrix Labs, the video number 37. We have been discussing in the previous video the following. We have been still working on the Testomo report, which is a PowerShell report that generates a lot of data concerning the Active Directory health and the Active Directory security health. So the Active Directory health, we mean the performance of the Active Directory. If there are any issues related to the Active Directory uh, concerning the performance or replication of the Active Directory database, or anything related to the Active Directory performance in general, and the Active Directory security. If there is any security concerns, we need to focus on concerning the Active Directory, and also focuses on if we are taking the necessary steps uh, to uh, to recover from a disaster. If we have a problem concerning the Active Directory is corrupted, or the Active Directory database is corrupted, or so, if you have the necessary, or you have taken the necessary steps to recover from a disaster concerning the Active Directory. For example, if you are taking backup or regular backup of the Active Directory database, all of these the Testum report focuses on, and it runs 644 tests to see or to focus on all of these aspects of the Active Directory: the Active Directory health, the Active Directory security, the Active Directory disaster recovery steps. So we have been working on the report, and we have seen that it is divided to a couple of tabs. First of all, it is the summary tab. If we go there, if we need to see it from there, here is the summary tab that contains all of the points found by the report in summary, and then it begins detailing or begin clarifying this summary in more details in other three tabs. For example, the first one is the forest, the findings of the report or the testum report uh, concerning the forest. What are the weak points in the forest? What are the successful points in the forest? Okay. Then it focuses on the domain. What are the findings of the test report in the domain, the weak points, the successful points, the strong points. Then at the end, we can see the domain controllers. It will focus on the domain controllers findings, or the Testomo report findings concerning the domain controllers in certain domains. So as we can see here, the report can be categorized in a lot of ways. You can categorize it as summary. It will give you the summary of the report, and then it can be categorized according to the forest finding, and then it can be categorized according to the domain findings, and then it can be categorized according to the domain controllers in a certain domain. So in the previous video, I've been working on the findings in the domain concerning this Testomo report, and then we have stopped at the point which is called well-known folders. What are the well-known folders? These are folders that are already there by default. If you open the Active Directory users and computers, you will see, for example, one of the default or the well-known folders, something called domain controllers OU. This is there by default. You will not create it. If you open Active Directory users and computers, it is already there. You can find also something called lost and found. There is something also called system container. There is something called deleted objects container. There is two very famous folders: a folder named users, or an OU. I think it's a folder, not an OU. A folder named users and the folder names computers. These where the default computers and users are created. So for example, if you join a computer to the domain, it will directly go to the folder named computers in the Active Directory users and computers, and this folder is created by default. Okay, and also this is the same for the users container or the users folder. Also, if you create a user, it should be created by default in this folder. Okay, if we have a look, let me show you a screenshot. Maybe I think we can get it from somewhere. Let me show it here from Perplexity. If we go there and ask it to give us maybe anyways, it's very simple. Okay, so let's go there and see if these folders are already there. If you have any screenshot for any Active Directory users and computers consoles, you will see this folder. So what is the test, or what the test will do? It will check that these folders are there by default. So it will check if you have a users folder, if you have a computers folder, if you have a domain controllers OU, if you have a deleted objects container, if you have a system container, if you have lost and found container, if you have a quota container, if you have foreign security principles container. And not only they are there, but to make sure that they are, some of them, in their default location, or their default location is not changed. And other two containers, he is checking that you should change their default location. So for example, I don't need all of the computers that join the domain to go to the folder named computers. I need them to be redirected to certain folder or to another folder. He is recommending that the folder of users and computers in the Active Directory, users and computers, they should be redirected to two new folders. And here is the URL on how to do that. Here is saying that from this you can see redirect the users and computer containers in the Active Directory. So this is how you can redirect creation of users and computers by default to be created in other folders, or other two folders other than the users and computers default folders in the Active Directory. This is very simple. I think I can maybe show you all something or a screenshot. Let me search for I try to get it from here. Well known folder containers in the Active Directory, and let's see the images. So I think, yes, here, let me show you something here. This is very, or it will be very clear from here. If you open this one, maybe, no, let me get it like that. For example, I need it to be a bigger one, so I think this is the one. And okay, here you go. This could be a very clarifying image. If you go there, if you open the Active Directory users and computers, you will see all of these folders. This is the default computers folder. This is the users. So these are folders. Okay, let me clarify. These are OUs, okay, organizational units, and these are folders, and sometimes they are called containers. Okay, so here I think this is not a folder, this is a container. So there is two terms in the Active Directory, something called organizational unit, something called container. So here we can see there is the computer container, the users container, the system container, the lost and found container, the foreign security principles container. So we need to know, or this test will check if these containers are there and they are not or they are in the default location. Their location is not changes to another location, except for the computers and users. He is recommending to change their default location, or to redirect computers and users from these two folders to another new two folders. As you can see here, this is the URL, and we have done this in a previous video. Okay, if you need the users and computers to be created automatically, or to be moved by default to certain folders, this can be done using this URL. So let's go and see. Here the test will check these folders. First of all, let me show you the result. Here, for example, he checked that the users folder or container, here I have redirected it from cusers dc matrix.internal to default users dc matrix.internal. We have done this in a previous video, and here is he is saying that we have added this, or so this is we have changed it. He's saying that it was redirected. Okay, so this is very simple. I think it will not remove the folder, it will only redirect the users in the folders, okay, to this folder, or the new created users to this new folder. And this is the computer is says users container, so this is the correct syntax or term. This is called user container. It is redirected from users to default users. And then we have computers container. It is redirected from computers to default computers. So it is changed according to the recommendation. So we are passing successfully this point. And then we can see the domain controllers container. Okay, this can be, I don't know if it's what is a container and what is a folder and what is an OU. Let's see if we can ask ChatGPT concerning the differences. What is the difference, okay, between a container and an OU in the context of Active Directory? So let's see what will be the answer. So here I think he is uh, giving a good answer. So let's see. Here he's saying in the context of the Active Directory, both containers and organization units are used to organize and manage Active Directory objects. That's correct. Containers are basic directory object used to hold other objects like users. Okay, that's correct. And even other containers functionality. Containers mainly serve to group objects and provide a hierarchical structure with Active Directory. They are not designed to apply group policies. So this is one major difference between the containers and the OUs. Common example, default containers in the Active Directory are the user's container. So here this is clarified. This is called a container. So if you go to the again, if we go to the image that we have seen, okay. So here, if we go and see, sorry, I have closed it by mistake. So that's it. Here we go. This is called container. Okay, so here even the URL is saying containers versus OUs. Okay, so this is, as you can see here, this is a container, and the computer is a container, and this is an OU. If we go and check the answer here, I think even I can tell the AI to explain it or to read it carefully. So let's read it out loudly.
In the context of Active Directory, both containers and organizational units, OUs, are used to organize and manage directory objects, but they have some key differences. Containers. 1. Definition. Containers are basic directory objects used to hold other objects like users, groups, computers, and even other containers. 2. Functionality. Containers mainly serve to group objects and provide a hierarchical structure within Active Directory. They are not designed to apply group policy objects, GPOs. 3. Common examples. Default containers in Active Directory include the Users container, Computers container, and Foreign Security Principles container. 4. Management. Containers cannot have group policy applied to them directly, and they do not have advanced delegation capabilities. 5. Default objects. Certain system containers are created by default and have specific roles in the AD infrastructure, such as storing built-in users and groups. Organizational units, OUs. 1. Definition. Organizational units are more advanced directory objects that contain users, groups, computers, and other OUs. They are used to create a logical structure within a domain. 2. Functionality. OUs can have group policy objects, GPOs, applied to them. This allows administrators to manage policies and settings for users and computers within the OU. Common examples. OUs are typically created by administrators to reflect the organizational structure of the company, such as sales, IT, HR, etc. For management, OUs provide more granular administrative control. Administrators can delegate specific permissions to other users or groups to manage the objects within the OU. 5. Customization. OUs are not created by default, but are configured by administrators to fit the needs of the organization. They provide flexibility in organizing and managing directory objects. Key differences. Policy application. OUs can have GPOs applied to them, whereas containers cannot. Administrative control. OUs allow for more detailed delegation of administrative tasks, providing better control over who can manage objects within the OU. Containers lack this granular control. Purpose and usage. Containers are often used for system or default objects and grouping, while OUs are used to reflect the organizational hierarchy and manage policies and permissions. Example scenario. Containers. You might have a user's container that holds all user accounts by default when they are created. This container is used simply to store these accounts without any specific policies applied. OUs. You might create an OU named Sales, where you place all user accounts of the sales department. You can then apply a GPO to the Sales OU to enforce specific settings, such as login scripts or software installations, that only apply to the sales team. In summary, while both containers and OUs are used to organize objects in Active Directory, OUs offer more flexibility and control, particularly in terms of applying policies and delegating administrative tasks.
So this is very, very good. Now we can know, or we can be sure that you are talking about not well-known folders. Here this is a misleading title. We are talking about well-known containers. Okay, so we are talking about well-known containers. Users, we will see that the user's container is where users are created by default. If any user is created, it should be located in the user's container. The same for the computers. If any computer joined the domain, it will go to the computer's container automatically. Okay, domain controllers here, I think this is on OU. Okay, but here is referring to it as a container. So this is deleted objects. When an object is deleted, we will see a summary or an explanation of every one of them. But the deleted objects, when you delete an object, it is located in the deleted object container. System containers contain some important configuration setting concerning the Active Directory. Lost and found container, when there is some replication issues, some items are not deleted correctly, and they are not reflected to other domain controllers, they will be listed in the lost and found container. Quota container, this is when you need to control how much objects are created in certain Active Directory partitions, for example, in the domain partition, or in the schema partition, or in one. So we will see one by one. At the foreign security principles, this is a container that will contain users and groups from foreign domains. So if you have a lot of or foreign or something from other domains or other forests, okay, so this is called foreign security principle container. We will see each one of these with a simple explanation. So the test will check all of these are there. Some of them he recommend to change their default location. Some of them he ensures that, or he should or he's saying you should not change their default location. If we see the result, here we can see that the report saying I have already changed the location of my users and computers containers. The rest of the well-known objects container or well-known containers are in their default location. Okay, so this is correct as we can see here. So again, what is the well-known objects, or what are the well-known containers? Okay, if we go and ask Perplexity what are the well-known objects or the well-known containers, here saying, let me give you the answer of Perplexity, which is very, very good actually. So let's see here.
Well-known objects, WKOs, in Active Directory, AD, are predefined system objects that can be easily identified and accessed using fixed globally unique identifiers, GUIDs. These objects play a crucial role in the organization and management of directory services within a Windows domain network. Here's a simplified explanation of WKOs and their significance. What are well-known objects? Well-known objects are specific types of objects in Active Directory that are recognized universally across different domains. They serve as containers or placeholders for various directory elements, such as user accounts, computer accounts, and groups. Each well-known object has a unique GUID, which allows it to be referenced consistently regardless of changes in the directory structure. Types of well-known objects. In Active Directory, well-known objects can be found in different naming contexts, NCs, including domain naming context. Domain NC. This context contains objects related to a specific domain. Some examples of well-known objects in this context include users container, where user accounts are stored, computers container, where computer accounts are stored, domain controllers container, contains information about domain controllers, deleted objects container, holds objects that have been deleted but not permanently removed. Configuration naming context. Config NC. This context contains information about the configuration of the AD forest. It includes well-known objects like deleted objects. Similar to the domain NC, it holds deleted objects. NTDS quotas. Contains quota information for directory objects. Application naming context. Application NC. This context is used for applications that do not require full domain services. Well-known objects here may include deleted objects, again, for tracking deleted objects. Infrastructure container, used for managing cross-domain references. Why are well-known objects important? The significance of well-known objects lies in their ability to simplify directory management and enhance security. They provide a standardized way to reference critical components of the directory service, making it easier for administrators and applications to interact with the directory. Key benefits. Consistency. Using GUIDs ensures that objects can be reliably referenced even if their names or locations change. Efficiency. WKOs streamline operations by allowing quick access to essential containers without needing to know their exact paths. Security. They help in managing permissions and access rights effectively, ensuring that only authorized users can interact with specific directory objects. In summary, well-known objects in Active Directory are essential components that facilitate the organization, management, and security of directory services, making them a foundational aspect of Windows domain networks.
So here another thing we can know from Perplexity is saying that well-known objects serve as containers. So we are talking about a certain type of object which is called a container. So again, we can rephrase what we have seen here or we have said here. So what this test will do, it will check for well-known object. One of these objects is the container. Okay, so here we are talking about well-known objects, not folders, and these objects we are talking about are the containers. Okay, so now let's ask, so here when we ask Perplexity, we are talking about what is the definition of well-known objects. Okay, we have seen that ChatGPT have said to us what is a container. So now we have the object as a definition and the container as a definition. Okay, so now we have a clear view about every aspect of the test. Okay, so let's again go and ask Claude to explain what is a well-known object. Let's see what is the answer of Claude. Again, another answer or another explanation. So let's see that and see if it will read it or it will explain it in a good way. So let's go there. Just a moment.
You are out of free messages until 7 p.m. Subscribe. I'd be happy to explain this in simpler terms. This document is describing how certain important objects are organized and referenced in a computer network system, specifically in Microsoft's Active Directory. Here's a breakdown in simpler language. Special containers. In each network, there are special containers or folders that hold important information. These containers have unique identifiers, called GUIDs, so they can be easily found. Two types of lists. There are two lists that keep track of these special containers, well-known objects and other well-known objects. These lists help the system find important stuff quickly. Rules for the main list. The well-known objects list has some strict rules. Each special container must be listed exactly once. If a container is renamed, the list gets updated. Special rules for users and computers. The containers for users and computers can be moved, but there are some strict rules about how and when this can be done. Different containers for different purposes. Depending on whether it's a regular network, ADDS, or a lighter version, ADLDS, there are different special containers. For example, both have containers for deleted objects and lost and found, but ADDS also has containers for things like computers and domain controllers. Config container. There's a special configuration container that has its own set of important objects. Unique identifiers. The document lists out all the unique identifiers, GUIDs, for these special containers. This is like a reference guide for the system to know exactly where to find important stuff. In essence, this document is describing how a complex network system organizes and keeps track of its most important parts, ensuring that critical information can always be found quickly and reliably.
So as we can see here, this is the explanation of a well-known object. If we go to the URL of Microsoft, here it is explaining. Here I asked it to get, this is the well-known object. I got the explanation or this and asked Claude to explain it. So if we need to see one by one or to explain one by one of these containers, the users containers, for example, if we go there and see what Microsoft have to say about it, if you go there, here this is each domain. So he's talking about the Active Directory database partition. He's saying that each domain partition contains a folder or contains a well-known default users container. So in any Active Directory database, especially in the partition of the domain, okay, in the Active Directory database, it contains a folder named users. This folder contains or contain the users that will be created, or any user is created by default in the default users container. This container, it is in the domain partition in the Active Directory database. One of these things here, or one of these properties of this container, you cannot delete it, okay, you cannot rename it, okay. Flag domain disallow move, here you can move it but with a certain command. So here is saying that you can disallow delete, it cannot be deleted, it cannot be renamed, it cannot be moved, but in a special command it cannot be moved, but you can, actually it's not moved, but you can ask the Active Directory, or you can make something, any user that is created, it is created by default in the users container. You can change this rule, and if any user is created, you can redirect it to another folder by default. So this is it's correct. You cannot delete the content, or you cannot delete the container, or you cannot rename it, or you cannot move it, and this is a critical system object. So this is one good thing to know. Let me see if I have it explained with Claude here. I think I have already it. Let's see. This is the lost and found, and again we can see no dot of the lost and found. I need the users container, deleted objects, and where is the users container? Where is the users container? Infrastructure, okay, NTDS. Okay, I think I have already this explained by ChatGPT. So let's go there and see where it is. This is the system container, and this is the, okay, anyway, so I think it is not explained here anyway. So this is very simple. You can name it in very simple terms. This is a container that any user is created in the Active Directory. It is placed by default in the users container in the Active Directory users and computers, and this container, it is in the Active Directory domain partition. Domain partition in the database of the Active Directory. And these are the properties of the container. If you go to computers container, any computer that joins the domain will be placed by default in the computers container in the Active Directory users and computer. This folder also, it is in the Active Directory domain partition. Again, we cannot delete it, we cannot rename it, we cannot move it. Okay, but as we have seen before, that we can redirect any users or computers that are created to be placed by default in different folders than computers and user containers, okay, or different OUs. For example, we have seen this in a video. Okay, so this is the computers container and this is the users container. Now we can explain this too, and they are changed. The location is changed. The domain controllers, this is very simple. This is where the domain controllers is placed. Okay, if we go to the domain controller, okay, here we go. This is even, it's saying it's an OU, it's not a container. Okay, it's a well-known container within the domain partition in the Active Directory database, contains computer objects for the domain controllers within a domain. So this is where the domain controllers is placed within a domain. Okay, here is saying it is an organizational unit. This is not a container. If we go to the computer containers, he said this is a container. So this is different, even though it is stated in the report to be a container, but in the Microsoft documentation it is saying that it is an OU. Okay, if we go there, this is the domain controllers. It's a well-known container, okay, within the domain partition in the Active Directory database, contains the computer objects for the domain controllers. In simple terms, this is where the domain controller is placed. Okay, again, flag, we cannot delete this OU, we cannot rename this OU, we cannot move this OU. This is very good thing. Okay, so we have seen that the report saying I didn't change it or rename it or moved it, so this is correct. Deleted objects, what are the container of the deleted objects? If we go to Microsoft documentation here, let's see the deleted objects. Where are the deleted objects? It's very simple. Even from its name we can know what does it say. Deleted container objects. Okay, here is a large explanation. If we go to Claude, I asked it to rephrase the text. Let me show if I have already told it to explain it. Yes, here is the deleted object. I asked it to explain it in simple terms. So let's see what is the answer of Claude when I tell it to explain what is the deleted object container. Let's see that.
Certainly. Let's break down the deleted objects container in Active Directory in simpler terms. Purpose. Think of this container as a special recycle bin for Active Directory. When you delete something from Active Directory, it doesn't just disappear. It goes into this special container first. Location. This container exists in various parts of Active Directory, kind of like having a recycle bin in each room of a house. How it works. When you delete an object, like a user account or a group, in Active Directory, it usually goes into this container. These deleted objects stay here for a set period of time, giving you a chance to recover them if needed. After a certain time, called the tombstone lifetime, these objects are permanently deleted. Some objects have a two-stage deletion process. First, they become deleted objects, then after another period, the deleted object lifetime, they become recycled objects. Special features. It's set up to never be accidentally deleted itself. You can't rename it or move it around. It's marked as super important, critical system object. Clever trick. To make sure this container itself doesn't get deleted by accident, Active Directory uses a little trick. It sets the deletion date of the container to a date way in the future, December 29th, 9999. This way, the system always thinks it's too soon to delete the container itself. Importance. This container is crucial for data recovery and maintaining the health of Active Directory. It gives administrators a safety net, allowing them to recover accidentally deleted items for a period of time. In simple terms, the deleted objects container is like a safety net or temporary holding area for things you delete in Active Directory. It keeps these deleted items around for a while, just in case you need to get them back before they're gone for good. It's a key part of making sure important information isn't lost by accident in a complex network system.
So this is the answer of Claude. This is very, very simple, as you can see here, and it's giving a brief explanation about what is a deleted object container. As we can see, it is in many Active Directory partitions. It is in the domain partition, the application partition, the configuration partition. So in any partition, if there is any objects deleted, they will be deleted or moved to the container within this partition. Okay, so this is very, very simple. As we can see here, this is the explanation of Microsoft. You can return to it. So very, very simple. It's a good explanation. If we go and continue, now we have seen the deleted objects. What is the system container? If we go and see, I think I asked Claude or asked here ChatGPT to give me an explanation about the system. So let's see here. I think here is the system container. Let's see the answer of ChatGPT.
Sure. Here's a simplified explanation of the Active Directory AD object container. System container, name, system, parent. This container is part of the domain NC naming context root object container, which means it can hold other objects. System flags. This container has special flags. Flag disallow delete. You can't delete this container. Flag domain disallow rename. You can't rename this container. Flag domain disallow. You can't move this container to a different location. Is critical system object. This is a crucial system object, meaning it's essential for the AD's functionality. Password settings container. Name, password settings container. This container is inside the system container. Object class, MSDS password settings, meaning it holds password settings for user groups. System flags. Same as the system container. Flag disallow delete. You can't delete this container. Flag domain disallow rename. You can't rename this container. Flag domain disallow move. You can't move this container to a different location. Purpose. Initially empty, this container is meant to hold objects that define password policies for user groups within the domain. In summary, the system container is a critical part of the domain structure that cannot be deleted, renamed, or moved. Inside this system container, there's a password settings container designed to store specific password policies for user groups, ensuring proper management and security of passwords within the domain.
So this is the answer, but what is a system container, or what does it contain? If we go to Microsoft explanation, if we try to get a little bit of thing here, this is the system container. Okay, it does contain data concerning the configuration of the Active Directory. Okay, I have seen an explanation concerning this container. So one of the configuration of the Active Directory, the password policy or the password setting, it is within the system container. So the system container contains some important configuration concerning the Active Directory. One of them is the password setting, for example. So now we can go and see this is the system container, all of these. So we have seen user container is changed by default, computer container is changed by default, domain controllers it is in a default location, deleted objects in default location, system container is in default location. What is the lost and found container? This is one thing we need to explain. It is not changed by default, and all of these are not changed, but we need to know the explanation of lost and found container. If you go to Claude and ask it to explain what is the lost and found container, if you go there, where is the lost and found? I think here this is the deleted objects. Okay, I think here is the lost and found. Okay, here you go. This is the lost and found container. Let's read it.
Certainly. Let me break this down into simpler terms. The lost and found container is like a special folder in a computer network system. Here's what it's all about. Purpose. Imagine you're moving
Okay,
files.
just wait for a moment here. I need to give it no, to explain it in more things. Here I'm telling it to relate it to the Active Directory containers to be more clear to you guys. So let's read it here again after telling it it is an Active Directory container.
Certainly. Let's revisit the explanation with the understanding that we're talking about Active Directory container objects. Here's a more tailored explanation. The lost and found container in Active Directory is a special type of container object. Here's what you need to know about it. Purpose. In Active Directory, which is like a big digital phone book and organizer for a network, the lost and found container is a special place where misplaced objects end up. It's like a safety net for the directory. Location. This container exists in different parts of Active Directory. In each domain, which is like a big department in a company. In application partitions, special sections for specific applications. In the configuration partition, where overall settings are stored. What it contains. It holds Active Directory objects, like user accounts, computer accounts, or groups that have become orphaned. This can happen when changes are made on different domain controllers, the servers that manage Active Directory, and don't sync up properly. Special characteristics. It's officially classified as a lost and found object in Active Directory. It has special protection flags. It can't be deleted, ensuring it's always there when needed. In domains and application partitions, it can't be renamed or moved. It's marked as critical, meaning Active Directory considers it essential for proper functioning. Importance. This container helps maintain the integrity of Active Directory. When synchronization issues occur between domain controllers, this container prevents important directory objects from disappearing entirely. In essence, think of the lost and found container as Active Directory's built-in safety mechanism. It's like a holding area for directory objects that might otherwise get lost due to conflicts or errors in the synchronization process between different parts of the network. This ensures that even if there are hiccups in how data is replicated across the network, important information isn't permanently lost.
So this is a very, very good explanation concerning the lost and found container. I think also maybe after explaining all of these, we need to give an example concerning each one of these containers. So now we can go to the quota container and tell the Claude AI to explain what is the quota container. Okay, so let's go and ask Claude what is the quota or NTDS quota container. Let's see what is the answer.
Certainly. Let's break down the NTDS quotas container in Active Directory in simple terms. Purpose. Think of this container as an allowance manager for Active Directory. It keeps track of how many objects, like user accounts or groups, each person or system is allowed to create. Location. This container exists in different parts of Active Directory, kind of like having an allowance tracker in each department of a company. What it does. It sets limits on how many things different users or systems can create in Active Directory. This helps prevent any one person or system from accidentally or intentionally creating too many objects and overloading the system. Special features. It's a special type of container called MSDS quota container. It can't be deleted. This is important to keep the system running smoothly. It's marked as very important, critical system object. Default settings. There's a setting called MSDS default quota, which is like the default allowance. Initially, this default allowance isn't set. It's up to the administrators to decide what the default should be. Importance. This container helps keep Active Directory organized and prevents it from getting overloaded. It's a way to make sure everyone plays fair and doesn't take up more than their share of space in the directory. In simple terms, the NTDS quotas container is like a digital allowance system for Active Directory. It keeps track of how many new things, like user accounts, different people or systems are allowed to create. This helps keep the whole system balanced and prevents any one user or system from creating too much stuff and causing problems. It's an important tool for managing and maintaining a healthy Active Directory environment.
So as you can see here, this is also the answer of Claude. So now we have a brief explanation of all of this. The last one is the foreign security principal container. Let's see the answer of, I think here I have the answer of uh, ChatGPT 4o. Let's see its answer.
Sure. Here's a simplified explanation of the Foreign Security Principles container in Active Directory. Foreign Security Principles container, name, Foreign Security Principles, parent, in ADDS, Active Directory Domain Services, it's part of the domain NC naming context root object. In ADLDS, Active Lightweight Directory Services, it's part of the config NC, configuration naming context root object. Object class, container, which means it can hold other objects. System flags. This container has special flags. In ADS, flag disallow delete. You can't delete this container. Flag domain disallow rename. You can't rename this container. Flag domain disallow move. You can't move this container to a different location. In ADLDS, flag disallow delete. You can't delete this container. Is critical system object. This is a crucial system object, meaning it's essential for the AD's functionality. Purpose. This container holds objects called Foreign Security Principal. These objects represent users, groups, or other security entities from trusted domains outside your own domain or forest. This allows these external security principals, like users from another domain, to become members of groups within your domain, enabling cross-domain collaboration and access control. ADDS versus ADLDS. In ADS, the container is part of the domain and allows trusted external users to be included in domain groups. In ADLDS, the container is part of the configuration and stores foreign security principals from outside the ADLDS forest. If an application in ADLDS needs to include an external user, this container is created when the first external user is added. In summary, the Foreign Security Principles container is a special part of the Active Directory that helps manage and include users or groups from other trusted domains. This allows these external entities to be part of groups within your domain, enabling them to access resources as needed. This container is critical and has restrictions to ensure it remains intact and functional.
Very, very good. As you can see here, this is the answer of ChatGPT. I think maybe we can need or we need to have special or to have some examples concerning these containers. I think I have already asked it to give us an explanation or a real world example. I think I didn't do that. Anyway, so these are let me go further, sorry guys. So here we have discussed all of the containers, okay, but I think it will be more more good to have real world examples concerning these containers. But anyway, they are very, very simple, okay. But for example, I don't think maybe we can give it or ask it to give example. Anyway, I think it is very, very simple. We cannot examples is very, very simple. Okay, so deleted object, if you delete an object, it will go to the container. System container contains something, the replication, if there is a lost and found. I think maybe I have already, let me show, I think here I have already let me see, I think I have already give it an example. Let me see here. I think if we go here, DNS Active Directory containers explained. Okay, I think here is go. Let me see that. Okay, I think this is a real world example. Let me show you all. Here I'm talking about deleted object containers and a lot of things. So let's see here Active Directory containers explains on a matrix .internal domain. Let's see the answer of Claude concerning giving us real world examples concerning these containers. Let's see.
Active Directory containers explained. Matrix.internal example. Let's consider a fictional company, Matrix Corp, with a domain named Matrix internal and two domain controllers, DC1 and DC2. 1. Deleted objects container. Real-world example. An IT admin accidentally deletes the user account for Neo from the sales OU. Neo's account isn't permanently deleted, but moved to the deleted objects container. The admin can restore Neo's account from this container within the retention period, typically 180 days. In matrix.internal, location, CN equals deleted objects, DC equals matrix, DC equals internal. Contents might include CN equals neo \0 Adele, ob1CD234EF567890 ob12CD34EF567890, CN equals deleted objects, DC equals matrix, DC equals internal. 2. System container. Real-world example. Matrix Corp sets a new password policy requiring 12-character passwords. This policy is stored in the system container, specifically in the password settings container. In matrix.internal, location, CN equals system, DC equals matrix, DC equals internal. Contents might include CN equals password settings container, CN equals system, DC equals matrix, DC equals internal. 3. Lost and found container. Real-world example. Matrix Corp has a projects OU containing several project-specific groups. An admin accidentally deletes the projects OU, but not its contents. The groups from the deleted OU are moved to the lost and found container. In matrix.internal, location, CN equals lost and found, DC equals matrix, DC equals internal. Contents might include CN equals Project Morpheus, CN equals lost and found, DC equals matrix, DC equals internal. 4. Quotas container. Real-world example. Matrix Corp wants to limit the number of objects the HR department can create in AD. They set a quota of 1,000 objects for the HROU. This quota is stored in the quotas container. In matrix.internal, location, CN equals NTDS quotas, DC equals matrix, DC equals internal. Contents might include CN equals HR quota, CN equals NTDS quotas, DC equals matrix, DC equals internal. 5. Foreign Security Principles container. Real-world example. Matrix Corp collaborates with a partner company, Zion Ltd., which has its own AD forest. They grant access to a Matrix Corp resource to a group from Zion Ltd. A representation of this external group is created in the Foreign Security Principles container. In matrix.internal, location, CN equals Foreign Security Principles, DC equals matrix, DC equals internal. Contents might include CN equals S152136238110153361044348303008201013. CN equals Foreign Security Principles, DC equals matrix, DC equals internal, where the string of numbers is the SID of the Zion Ltd group. Note: these containers exist on both DC1 and DC2, and their contents are replicated between the domain controllers to maintain consistency across the domain.
So as we can see here, this is a very good example on the containers and how they are in real world examples. So we have seen here, this is the results of the report, okay, or the result of the test, okay. Let me show you all, first of all, how much time we have, okay. If we go and see how this is in real world life, if I took this or try to see of all of these, I think I already have done this through my domain controllers, I think. Okay, anyway, I think we can pause this real quickly. Okay, so here, the second thing here, or let's go to the next step. Here we need to change, or there is a couple of things here related to password complexity requirements. Here is saying that the lockout duration, the account should be locked for 30 minutes and then to be unlocked automatically after 30 minutes. and the minimum password length should be more than 8 characters. I have this set to 8 and I have the lockout duration to 0, which means that it will not be locked or unlocked, sorry, unless I unlock it as an administrator. This is more safe. If an account is unlocked automatically, this could be a hacker. So every 30 minutes, the hacker can try a lot of passwords, and then it's locked for 30 minutes and unlocked, and then he can try again to hack the account. But if it is locked and it will not be unlocked unless the admin unlocks it, this will be much safer. And as for the minimum password length, we can change it from the default domain policy. We can see that in a moment. So let's see how this will be done. So this is the additional domain controller. We can open our console and modify the default domain policy to change the lockout duration if you need, and to change the minimum password length. Okay, so this is set by default on the default domain policy. So we can open policies, and then we can open Windows setting, and then we can change the security setting, okay, to there is first the account policies, and then we can get the password policy. We can change the maximum password length to more than 8 characters. We can make it 9, for example. And then for the account lockout duration, we can make it or leave it 0. I prefer it to be 0, not 30. And the Department of Defense of the United States recommendation concerning this is to make it 0, okay, not 30 minutes. So now we can you see, account is locked until the administrator unlocks it. This is 0 minutes, okay. So now we can bypass this step, and again you can take this command prompt to check the default domain password policy on any domain controller. If this report is set up on any domain controller, you can run this command to get the default domain password policy. As you can see here, this is the data. We can run it and see. So if you change the settings through the default domain policy, you can run this command to check if the setting is reflected or not, or it is applied or not. So now if we go there and take this command, okay, this will display the default domain password policy. So right click and put the domain matrix.internal, and then press enter. We will see here is the setting or the password setting for the domain, the default domain password policy. Here we can see minimum password age is 0, maximum password age is 60 days. Okay, minimum password count or password history count or password history 13 password, and reversible encryption enabled false. Okay, so all of these are good data if you need to check the default domain policy or the default domain password policy for a domain. This can be done using this command only if you run the report or if the report of Testomo is installed on the domain controllers in the domain. So the upcoming tests, we will bypass it because we will dedicate a series of videos to talk about the group policy findings. We will have another report that will focus on the group policies and the weak points in the group policies and the best practices for the group policies. We will have separate videos for doing that with another report which is much detailed more than the Testomo report. Okay, So we will leave the group policy findings and we will continue working with the other findings. Okay. So here orphaned, this report, it's called Orphaned Foreign Security Principles. Very, very simple. When we have seen that, or we have said that the foreign security principle container contains groups or users from external domains or external forests. Okay, you put them in this container so you can then give them access to internal resources within your domain. Okay, so for example, if this user or group was removed from the external domain, so this means that this means that now you cannot use it because the original user was removed from the external domain. So let's give it on in a simple way. When you add a user or a group from an external domain in the foreign security principle container, this is like a shortcut, or it is referring to the object in the external forest on the external domain. So if this object is deleted, so this reference is no longer valid. It will not point to anything. So let's see also the explanation of this report. If we go further and see, let me go further and show you what it talks about here. It's saying that FPS, or foreign security principle, in an Active Directory, okay, it is that it points to a security principle. Okay, so FPS, the foreign security principle, okay, this is, or what it is, an FPS in an Active Directory is a security principle that points to a security principle, a user, computer, or group from a domain of another forest. AD automatically and transparently create them in the domain the first time after adding a security principle from another forest. Anyway, so in very, very simple terms, when you need to give access, remember, for example, when we were talking about, let me show you something here. When we talk about this example, this is will clear everything. When we need, for example, in a Matrix Corp, collaborates with a partner named Xeon, so we have two forests, Matrix Forest and Xeon Forest. Okay, we need to grant access for a group from the Xeon Forest to resources in the Matrix Forest. Okay, so for example, a group may be named HR, for example. We need to add it to the Matrix Forest to access certain resources. So HR from Xeon will be added to the foreign security principle container in the Matrix Forest. Okay, so for example, if Xeon Forest deleted this HR group, the reference will be no longer valid. Okay, so the HR in the foreign security principle will be orphaned because the object is deleted from the Xeon Forest. Okay, so this is what we are talking about. So this is what we are talking about. Here is talking about if we need to let a user from an external forest or external domain to access resources to our domain, we need to add it to our foreign security principle container. Okay, so this is how it is done. But what if the external forest deleted this group? What it will happen then? The group that we have in our foreign security principle container, it will not do anything. It is only a reference. It's referring to the object which is deleted already. Okay, so this is what the test will do. It will check if you have any orphaned security principles. Okay, let me see if I have this already explained within my CLOD. Okay, let's see here. Foreign security, let's see if we can go there and see. I think I have maybe other explanations. No. Okay, anyway, so here is this test. It's checking if I have any orphaned security principles, and again the other test, it will check if I have any organizational units that doesn't contain any objects. So for example, I have an OU called default users and OU called default computer. It doesn't contain any users or computers. So here is checking if there is any organizational units that doesn't contain any objects. Okay, so this is also one good thing. So if you have an OU that doesn't contain anything or any objects, so then you should delete it. Okay, so it is not needed anymore. So this is also the test. You need to make sure to check your OUs. Again, the orphan security principle, we have seen this or I have discussed it. So let's see, or continue with the tests. So I think we can pass it this real quickly. Again, I think we can pass this real quickly. Okay, now. Okay, here is the default computers. We don't have anything. Again, something here. No, we need to get further back. So I think this is it. No, I think we can pass this real quickly. Okay, I think we can go to the next. Here also the next report or the next test, it will check if your organizational units are protected or not. So let me go and show you something here. The next test, okay, what it will do, it will check if you have any organizational units that are not protected from accidental deletion. Remember, any organization unit in the Active Directory, when it is created, you have an option called Protect from Accidental Deletion. If you have this option checked, then if you shift delete the OU, it will not be deleted unless you uncheck Protect Against Accidental Deletion. Here is saying that I have found the domain controllers OU, you don't have it protected from accidental deletion. By the way, this is by default. Microsoft leave this by default. I am sure that this is for a reason. Okay, if it is so important, then it could, why it didn't enable this option by default? Okay, so I think we should leave it as it is, because I didn't see any recommendations concerning any famous security providers or security companies saying that we should enable protect from accidental deletion on domain controllers or use. So this is one thing, okay, because if it is important, why Microsoft didn't apply it by default? Okay, so let's see this, or see the other report. So we can bypass this real quickly. Okay, we can go and check if you go to the OUs. Okay, for example, if we open Active Directory users and computers, we will see a lot of OUs here. For example, for the default computers, if we right click on properties, we will see in the objects protect from accidental deletion. It is already checked by default when we created this OU. Okay, so if you go to the domain controllers, we will see that it is not checked. We go to default users. Okay, we can see here it is checked. If we go to for example, if we go to the domain controllers, we will see it is not checked. This is very, very weird, because Microsoft should have this enabled by default. If we go further, so if we go further, just wait for a moment. So I think I can pass this real quickly. I don't need to pass this, so we can pass this quickly. Okay, here you go. This is the test protected. Here is saying that I don't have my domain controllers OU option checked. Here we can see this is false. So here, again, this is a script to do that, but I think we don't need this. We can pause this real quickly. Okay, so again here, this is domain controllers. We can see here object protect from accidental deletion. It's not there, and we'll see also the default containers doesn't have this option. So this is the computer's container. We see also this, it is not protect from accidental deletion. So this is weird. Some of the most important containers and folders doesn't have this option enabled. Okay, so this is weird. You need to be careful for applying this test, or applying this or rectifying this point. Here, why domain control IO doesn't have protect against accidental deletion? Here I asked AI tool to give me the answer. So it's saying a lot of things. It's a special thing anyway. So it's saying here in summary, does not have the protect against deletion market by default due to the specified nature of its content, the typical administrative oversight involved, and the permissions model in place. However, administrators who wish to add an extra layer of protection can manually enable this feature. I do not recommend that until. So if it is a best practice, why Microsoft didn't do this by default? So this is one thing we need to make sure it is you do not apply it. Okay, so let's go further and see. Okay, so again, I think we can stop at this point actually. So what we will do, we will stop at minute 43, and we will stop for the report at the point of net login owner. We will stop at this point, and we will continue working with the report in the upcoming video. Hope this video informative to you all, and thank you all for viewing. Thank you so much.